Good morning. Thank you for being here for our panel on creator partnerships, what creates the most impact. We appreciate you being here for the first panel of the day for what I think is going to be a great day. We are going to be talking about best practices, biggest challenges, thinking about long-term partnerships versus quick-turn high impact and what that looks like, and then also managing expectations so everyone is satisfied with the outcome. First, I'm going to introduce our esteemed panelists. So I'm going to go down for Adeline, David, and Jess. Adeline Leong, CMO at Kosas. Adeline's a marketing... Nice. All right, there's some love for Kosas in the house. Adeline is a marketing and digital expert with a passion for building and scaling brands. She started her beauty career at L'Oreal, followed by various leadership roles at Sephora in marketing and e-commerce. She left the big company world to become the CMO at Tatcha, growing it from pre-private equity stage through acquisition by Unilever Prestige. She's now the Chief Marketing Officer of Kosas, a high-growth clean beauty brand. Both Tatcha and Kosas have leveraged influencer marketing at the heart of their growth stories, but in very different ways, illustrative of how fast the landscape moves. So I'm curious to hear about that. Welcome, Adeline. David Neyman, Global Lead for Creator and Content Partnerships at Logitech. So let's hear it for Logitech and David. In his role, he has played a key part in guiding the brand's partnerships with top talent and creators like Lizzo and Bretman Rock. You should have some good stories there. He's also managed tentpole marketing initiatives with partners such as Roblox, Billboard, and Westbrook Media, and has led creator partnerships globally across Logitech's various business groups, offering support for product launches and pivotal moments. Prior to joining talent management, David spent over a decade working with various publishers and platforms, including Spin Media, Pop Sugar, and Omaze, with a specific focus on building creator and content strategy and partnerships. Welcome, David. All right, and then last but not least, Jess Clifton, Head of Brand and Marketing Advisory at Media.Monks. So let's hear it for Jess and Media.Monks. Jess is a longtime proponent of influencer marketing as a key lever in driving influence and affinity for brands. In 2013, Jess formalized the global positioning of influencer marketing for Edelman, the world's largest PR firm, which included the development of a technology solution built with Creator IQ and a go-to-market strategy, which she built into a $40 million business. And in 2020, Jess was responsible for the launch of the LA 2028 Olympic and Paralympic brand, which I'm fascinated to hear about, which included the unveiling of the first ever dynamic Olympic logo, launched with 28 different creators representing athletics, entertainment, community, and culture. She firmly believes in the power of influencer marketing and is deeply invested in ensuring her clients are successful in executing these programs. I am your moderator leading the session for the next, we've got 21 minutes. We want to get through everything. My name's Lia Haberman. I write a creator economy newsletter called In Case You Missed It. I teach influencer marketing at UCLA Extension, and I consult on social and creator strategies for a variety of brands, including AT&T, Viral Nation, Riot Games, and a bunch of others. So we are going to get into it because we have a limited amount of time and so much that we want to get through. Jess, maybe we'll start down at your end and kind of work our way down. We were talking about long-term partnerships versus what a quick-turn, high-impact partnership might look like. Which one have you found success with, and what are your tips there? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I like this question. I think it's interesting because we hear it a lot from clients, and it's not necessarily an either-or strategy, right? In some cases, there might be a launch or some big news from a PR perspective that a quick hit, big macro partnership makes a ton of sense because it complements paid and creative and kind of a bigger initiative and noise that's built around the brand. But I do love what a lot of brands are doing today, which is building these consortiums of Gen Z influencers who are coming on and working with the brand as advisors and helping them think about how they innovate around their products and how they connect with culture in a really meaningful and authentic way. Because if you think about people who are building products today, right, they're not necessarily the people that are connected into culture from an innovation perspective or a communication perspective. And so to have that knowledge and those people who can really help kind of guide you along and advise you, but also help you communicate is such a powerful tool. And I think when you bring those consortiums and brands, those influentials, ultimately become brand ambassadors, and they build advocacy around your brand in the long run. So it's a great strategy. Both are really important for brands. It just depends on your business objectives.
David, what about you? What does that look like at Logitech?
So it looks very similar. I think we kind of, can you hear me? Yeah, is this, yeah, we'll just pass it on. So we kind of take a hybrid approach. We do have long-term partnerships. I think our gaming business has done a really great job of having these always-on partnerships. And to your point, I mean, they create just not just advocacy, but like there's stuff that shows up beyond just the sort of transactional details that a partnership would have. There's loyalty, there's authenticity. The brand shows up beyond just whatever your desired deliverables are. But also not every brand can sort of undertake long-term partnerships, or it's sort of an and strategy as well. So we do short-term partnerships as well. We work with creators. We want to continue to grow the pod, grow relationships. So I think it's trying to find the balance of both. And then hopefully in even your short-term partnerships, you find creators that represent the brand authentically, obviously deliver on KPIs and results, and find a path to grow long-term as well.
So that's really interesting because I think conventional wisdom, we've been really heavy on kind of long-term partnerships. Adeline, you and I had an interesting discussion last night about some of the benefits of kind of like the quick turn stuff. We were talking about Tube Girl. So anybody who doesn't know Tube Girl, she's a TikToker who went viral for recording music videos on the subway in London. And brands kind of jumped on that very quickly. Within days of her popping off, you had these quick turn partnerships. And is that specific to beauty, do you think? Do you think that that's kind of, crosses different categories and industries? What are your thoughts on that long-term versus kind of quick hit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that beauty is unique in the fact that TikTok has exploded the category at a pace that I think is beyond even the other categories. But I also love TikTok because it has changed the way marketers move, and it's changed the speed of culture. And as a marketer, that's really fun because you can see the things that are popping off, and if you are willing to take the risks, you can jump on them and see really high reward. If you think about the people who discovered Alex Earl, really early on, there was a person on my team in Slack, who very early on was like, hey, this girl's really interesting. And for people who can have that vision and say, like, not sure who she is yet, but I believe in her, and I think that there is something about her that's a really authentic fit to our brand. It still has to fit your brand, but I think there's enormous risk and reward in taking those bets and leaving room in your budgets as you think about your years to have both the long-term and the opportunities to take advantage of the short-term opportunities.
And ability to move fast. Like, who here could activate in 24 hours with an influencer marketing partnership? Yeah, it's a challenge. All right, David, we're going to go to you for the next question because you do work with creators or have worked with creators directly. When you think about kind of managing the expectations so that all of the parties are satisfied with the outcome of a partnership, what does that look like for you in thinking about that balance of both brand and what also the creator's interests are?
Right. So a lot of that work happens before you even speak to the creator. So I think the most important thing, and this might go without saying, but we're going to say it anyways, do your due diligence, right? So understand who you want to partner with and why you want to partner with them. So do the work internally of understanding your goals, your KPIs, what the purpose of a partnership would be, and then take that next step. And obviously, there's a lot of tools at our disposal, including the one right behind me, Creator IQ, in terms of understanding data and engagement rates and really, making sure that there's an audience fit, there's a product fit, but then go a step deeper. Take a look at the partner, take a look at their content, look at their production quality, look at their storytelling prowess. There's nothing that gives me the warm and fuzzies more than when a creator is engaging with their audience on a post. So making sure that they have a two-way relationship. So I think that's really important, just so you understand who you're getting into business with, so there are no surprises, 8 weeks later, after the contract's been signed, after the deliverables have been, delivered, and then you're saying, wait, this is not what I had in mind. And I think the second thing is really just making sure that there's clear communication throughout and from the very beginning. I think these partnerships are meant to be, I think we say this a lot, but they really are truly mutually beneficial partnerships. They need to work for both parties. So be very clear with your creator partners on what the expectations are and what the goals are, and make sure that you are aligned. There are, if you go through the process of understanding, who they are, what they are, and you've kind of checked all those boxes, but you get to a point where you realize maybe what you have in mind and what they're able to deliver is not necessarily on the same page. It's okay. They might not be the best fit for that partnership. There are other creators out there. So I think just, again, do your due diligence, take the time to really understand who you're speaking to and why you're speaking to them, and then making sure that both parties are clear on what the expectations are.
Yeah, I think the sourcing and vetting is so important in that. Jess, so from your experience, running an agency, working at an agency, working with multiple partners, the LA 2028, with the number of creators that you had to work with, what have you found? What's been your experience there?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything David said plus one, I would echo that with kind of building a little bit of infrastructure around that upfront engagement. So often in the creative industry, we write a creative brief from a strategic perspective for our creative partners to go build a big brand campaign. And what is so often missed with working with influencers is that creative brief to them. So without the foundation of understanding who is this brand, what are their business objectives, what's the story they're trying to convey, and what's the audience they're trying to reach, they have no idea what they're doing. And of course, creators are always so eager to work with brands, but we've found so many programs when we do a postmortem have gone sideways because the creators weren't briefed properly. So I think building that infrastructure is so critically important. I think, you have to be patient and thoughtful, especially when you're working with people like I worked with at 2028. It's Olympians and huge celebrities and big entertainers, and schedules shift all the time, and they want to come through, but there's just a lot of flexibility that you have to continue to kind of consider and own, and there's deadlines that are going to slip, and you just have to kind of always manage that communication and upfront conversation with the clients in advance. That was such a wonderful program. I still have PTSD from it a little bit, but I'm really proud of it at the same time. You can look at all of the stories on the LA 2028 website. But yeah, I think it's that infrastructure. It's making sure you bring in people who are really authentic, who are aligned. I've given briefs to influencers who have been really excited about the initial conversation and then read the brief and said, I actually don't think I can be successful here, and I would love for you to consider me in the future, but I don't know if I don't deliver here, I'm worried your entire agency will never want to work with me again. And that's a really valid conversation to have. And I think you want to say to them, we have hard business objectives we're trying to hit, or soft ones. And if this isn't right for you, that's okay, because we love you and we're going to come back to you for something else. But just being really transparent and authentic and knowing, again, what's the outcome that you're trying to achieve and communicating that up front.
Yeah, I think it's almost preferable to find somebody who has the integrity to say no, because that's a hard thing to do, to turn down an offer. Adeline, you work through an agency. So from your perspective, what does that look like? You're not necessarily managing the influencer relationship yourself, but thinking about externally what that looks like as a success, and then internally what that seems like.
We do a combination of both. We do work with creators directly, and then we work through their agents mostly, and then sometimes agencies as well. But I think it's a lot of echoing similar thinking to what Jess and David were saying, in that it's the infrastructure, and I think with that infrastructure is treating people like they're almost an extension of your team. The same way you need to give people their objectives, what success looks like, that they're getting something out of it too, and that they feel supported, and that's sort of the foundation of both the long-term relationships, I think, as well as the success of the first deliverable. And so I think, a lot of these things can feel really transactional in the influencer world, and the teams, and I'm lucky, I think some of my team members are here, and they're amazing at building the relationships so that make it feel so much better, that when people come back, they're just I love working with you, because they love the people. And that's a really, I think, critical piece that a lot of people can miss in the chaos of influencer marketing.
Can I just add to that really quick? I mean, totally agree with everything. At the end of the day, whether you're working with an agency or you're doing it internally, it should look and feel the same. I think a great partnership is irregardless. It comes out looking on the other side the exact same. So the same, when you're doing it internally and you're talking to creators directly, the same effort and care and insights you're giving them, you need to make sure you're giving to your agency partner, because you want to put them in a position to succeed. And so I think the best partnerships, whether you're doing it internally or externally, at the end of the day, they should and feel the same, because you've done the right work ahead of time.
That's a good segue to, thank you. That's a good segue to our next question in thinking about like success strategies. Any insights? Obviously, you guys are all in very different, industries, categories, represent different brands or clients. But kind of what are the broad takeaways that I think, we know influencer marketing is not one size fits all, also depending on if you're at a startup versus in a more established brand, but like what do those, Jess, do you want to take that one in terms of kicking us off, thinking about a successful partnership, what that looks like, tips for that,
Sure.
anything that you've had a recent experience or project you've worked on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I work with Red Robin, which is a burger chain, new client. CMO has been a longtime friend who just keeps chasing me around everywhere I go from every company he works at. But they just launched kind of a whole new portfolio of burgers and grills, and they're up-leveling their flavor, and they're investing with private equity, and they're trying to put their restaurant chain back on the map. And as part of that announcement, we thought we need to come up with some like fun and engaging, like stunt-like opportunities for the brand so that people not only are getting excited about your new and delicious ingredients, but also like just recognize you as something that's like modern in culture. And so we came up with this idea of creating, in the trend of like savory cocktails, a burgertini. And we partnered with Ariana Maddox, who's a very well-known bartender and kind of hot in culture right now. And she made a burgertini on her channel. And it was, one of those things that's like, let's test this out and see how it goes. It blew up. And now we have like over 1,000 orders via their Instagram page for people trying to order the burgertini kits, which kind of makes me want to throw up, but it's like, maybe it's delicious, I don't know. You guys can try it and report back. But it's a great example of like, how do you kind of like grab somebody who's like hit with culture, bring them into like a PR moment, connect that back to the bigger story, and then accelerate the conversation around the brand in a way that like burgers and ingredients and new grills is not going to like cut the mustard, pun intended.
I love that story. Sorry, David, didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I love that story too. Burgertini, is that it? Okay. Burgertini at happy hour. Our challenge is a little bit different. So we're a 40-year-old brand. We've been now around for a little bit. It's kind of like a long-term, short-term sort of approach. Long-term, we are definitely trying to figure out and how do we evolve a functional brand, a keyboard, a mice, a microphone, a light, a webcam, into something that can be beloved. And so the road is long. And so part of our strategy has really been how do we tap into more cultural moments and cultural zeitgeist to help find those audiences that can understand, the product and really be able to tell the stories through that. So over the last couple of years, we mentioned the Lizzo partnership. We partnered with a choreographer named Jaquel Knight, who's the first commercial choreographer to own his own copyright. He did the Single Ladies. Part of the reason we partnered with him because creator rights is such a big part of our brand values and something that we talk about all the time, and he's out there living it. So the partnership made a lot of sense, and it wasn't just telling his story. It was like, how do we actually impact sort of the story as well? And part of what we did is we actually helped a number of up-and-coming creators copyright their work as well, because credit and ownership is something that is really an issue when it comes to the creator space. And then short term, obviously, partnering with the Lizzos and the Bretmans of the world, it's expensive. It's not necessarily always scalable. And so we have a short term strategy as well. It's understanding, what our priorities are and working with creators that we feel could be a good fit and something that we can do, quarter over quarter, native organic integration within their content, within their channels, and hopefully through that, finding partners that we can build these long-term partnerships with.
I think tapping into culture is so important. Like that is such a key thing right now. It's that brands are all trying to nail that, the memes and the, trending songs and just really being on top of things and like good social listening and.
Yeah, but you have to be careful because, you can, it can be thirsty sometimes if you don't do it the right way. So
Beware of the
there's a balance, but yeah, certainly that is definitely a focus.
What does that look like at Kosas?
By the way, I love that you have to make a keyboard cool and in influencer marketing. I can't. That's the hardest job and so amazing. I'd say I think one of the things we think about the most in beauty and I think this is applicable to any industry, but so much of it is that because influencer marketing has become a media channel, really, that the same way that you would think of a media plan 15 years ago as being part print, part TV, part your trade marketing, influencers have all those same kind of equivalents of verticals where you have to think about what's the culture moment, but then what are your kind of key brand awareness vehicles, what's actually driving to retail, what is converting for D2C, and those are all different people. And I think the mistake that a lot of people can make is that you try to find one brief that covers all of them or one partner that covers all of them. And I think our key learning has really been you just can't do it all that way. And so you have to know what's most important for a particular campaign or launch. Or your always-on strategy, and really think through what does that mean for your infrastructure internally for how you even work on influencer marketing.
I think that's such a good point because there are the unicorns that kind of like hit the like awareness, performance, all of the things, but those people are very few and far between and very much in demand. So being able to get those people, not always possible. So you really have to think about these as like individual partnerships. So that's we're going to go with our last question, which is essentially to wrap up is like challenges. So maybe we'll start, Adeline, we'll start with you and then kind of work down beyond the challenge of figuring out, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and no one influencer rarely fits all of the boxes that you need to check. What are some challenges that you've either learned from and can kind of share those insights, or things that are maybe top of mind for Q1, like we're all thinking about, what is the big thing that is coming? Is it AI? Is it live stream commerce? Like what are we all thinking about right now?
I mean, I think because it's budget season, we're thinking a lot about scale, which I'm sure is a topic for many of you here, but costs are rising at an unbreakable pace. And it's both the media costs, whether that's CPMs or it's the influencer partnership costs. And so I think that's number one. Don't have a solution for anyone, but if you feel seen by that, then hopefully that's helpful. And then I think the other piece is just the landscape has become so Me Too, particularly in beauty, where you have a dupe culture and all of these things that we're always trying to think about how one of our key values is coloring outside the lines as a company. So we're always trying to think about what's next. And I think as part of that, there are so many new apps and programs when you'll hear AI you have to do, live stream you have to do, TikTok shops you have to do, and the reality is you can't do it all. And so I think we're trying to think about what are the things that you want to pioneer, what are the things where you kind of want to sit back and let someone else test it, and what that looks like for us. So, I think I'm pretty bullish on TikTok shops though.
Same here. I think there's two sort of things. One is, while they are shiny, creators are not a silver bullet. They cannot operate and fix your business and solve all your issues on their own. And so I think it's a constant education internally as well, because, while we're all here, there are definitely folks and organizations who don't fully understand that. So just in the same way that you take the time to build partnerships and relationships with your creators, do the same thing internally as well. Make sure that social and marketing and product and, the DTX team, everybody understands like what you're trying to do and make sure that they are aware of what's available to them as well. So, again, education I think is really important and something that especially as how quickly this ecosystem moves, I think something that we forget. And then the other big thing for us is, KPIs are changing, budgets are changing. Most creators obviously are generally top of funnel. But we do need to start, figuring out how do we get more performance outside of just awareness engagement. So how do you start, moving them down the funnel from top of funnel, mid funnel, ultimately to conversion as well. And not every creator can do that, right? So really making sure, again, you're doing your due diligence, doing your work, and making sure you're having those conversations with creators that they are okay with those, goals as well. And you can work together to create a long-term successful partnership.
All right, Jess, we've got one more minute, so you'll get to finish this out. Let us know your thoughts.
You guys are overwhelming me with all of your issues. I think, mic drop. No, I would just say, yes, budgets are getting tighter and influencers are getting more broad and communities are getting more fragmented, and it is harder to reach audiences more than ever. But there's one thing that has held true throughout my entire career. There's nothing more powerful than a creative story that resonates in culture. And if you can crack what that story is and that narrative for the brand, you can find the people to help you tell that story. You can find the assets and the tools in social, you can find the levers to pull within your budget constraints to kind of facilitate that story and stay true to that story and be focused. AI is definitely super interesting. If you're not really immersed in that space, I would say you really need to get there. And if anybody wants to talk to me about that, I have a really easy 101 that I can share with everyone. But the intention with AI is really like, how can we make marketing more efficient? How can we facilitate more rapid development of content? How can we be smarter with paid to target audiences? How can we understand what creative is working more quickly so that we can pivot budgets, so on and so forth? Again, all laddering up to that story of how do we stay true to the brand? How do we tell a story that connects culture and communities back to us and keeps our communities loyal so that we keep driving ROI?
That was a great ending. That's all we have time for. I wish we could keep going. There's so much more that we could talk about, but that's it for today. So thank you so much. Adeline, David, Jess, thank you for the wisdom that you brought today.